Guys, I'm just going to get straight into this. Now, I honestly wanted Raw to be good tonight. I really did. It had some good moments. I'm not going to lie. I did enjoy myself a little bit when I did see Charlotte versus Becky Lynch. I mean, it actually did start off slow, but then it started working its way up, and it actually was pretty entertaining. But then the fact that we actually had Charlotte possibly doing a heel turn and pulling the same moves that the Nature Boy did really made me happy. And I guess y'all know that I'm a fan of the Nature Boy, so I guess I kind of expected something like that. But it does make Charlotte a little bit more interesting. And I'm actually starting with the good here, because there's a lot of confusing moments that really shouldn't have been there. So I'm going to start with the good as best as I can. I'm going to say that the New Day is the most entertaining group that I've ever seen in my life. Whether they're a tag team or not, I don't know. They're their own entity. They're like the Freebirds. But I will say that they're the most entertaining part of the night. When they were on commentary, pretty much doing everybody's job for them. JBL's, Michael Cole, I mean, pretty much all of them. Byron Saxton, pretty much doing all of their jobs. I thought that was hilarious. I loved every bit of that. And actually, the opener, having them come out celebrating that it's a brand new day and that they're tag team champs in Pittsburgh, I honestly thought that that was great. But I'm starting to notice that the New Day is realizing that whoever, I mean, I don't know whether or not it's like backstage that they're realizing that the New Day is well over being heels, but they're cheered as faces. So they do a lot of heelish stuff to get people not to like them, but that just doesn't work. It just doesn't. The fact they brought out the whole Steelers towel, the angry towel, and then they actually was wiping themselves with it, like Big E was wiping themselves with it, that still didn't do anything with the crowd. The crowd still liked the New Day. But I will admit, there were a few surprises that actually did happen tonight, as well as a lot of confusion. Now I'm going to start with some of the surprises. We did have Tommy Dreamer make his return back on Raw, which I kind of found interesting, because I don't know. The last time I saw him was on the Daily Show when they actually did do a documentary on racism in wrestling. And seeing him on there, as well as Virgil and the things that he said about WWE, I'm kind of shocked that they even allowed him to come back. But either or, the fact that he was back, okay, good, well, and great. But honestly, I didn't mark out or anything. Seeing the whole ECW clan up there, I didn't mark out. I really didn't care. Because we all know what's going to happen here. The Wyatts are going to get squashed. They're going to get squashed like they always do. They're never going to be taken seriously. They're going to have all these promos with all this darkness and stuff. And their music, even though it's awesome, and even though Bray Wyatt has pretty much one of the best promos I've ever heard a Psychotic Heel say, it's going to always be undermined by legends, period. They're never going to get over with the legends. And the same thing with bringing back the Dudley Boys. I love the Dudley Boys. I like who they were when they actually, during the Attitude Era, when they went against Edge and Christian, as well as the Hardy Boys, having one of the most legendary ladder matches ever. But I will say, well, TLC matches, that is, one of the best TLC matches I've ever seen. But despite all that, they ruined their moment when they made their return. Just like the New Age Outlaws. When the New Age Outlaws came back, they ended up having the belt for a few weeks. Probably close to a few months before leading on up to WrestleMania. But the thing is that they had the belts. They had the titles for that long. They should have beaten the New Day and had the New Day come back and beat them. But they actually missed the bar on that, so they actually have to make the Dudleys look good. So what they're going to do, they're going to make them dominant. And that's the problem. You don't want your legends to be too dominant. The whole thing, the whole purpose of having legends there is to not only bring crowd attention and butts in the seats, but to also make the future look good. That's their whole purpose. If they have a great match, a match is like straight up brutal to where they go to war, just like Hell in a Cell with Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. If they do it that way and they make each other look good with having a great match, they don't look bad. They both look good. But the problem is the Wyatts are constantly being squashed. So having them come back is ridiculous. The reason their debut was pointless. And having Tommy Dreamer, nobody really cared. The crowd didn't care. I know I didn't. Because I'm kind of seeing exactly where it's going to go here. I don't see it's going to be positive for the Wyatts at all. So I'm like, why the heck are you going to do this in the first place? But in the end, they made their return. And they knocked Bray Wyatt into a table, given. Now, do I believe it's going to go further than it is? No, I actually see it being squashed at TLC. But it looks to me that they're actually having these matches on SmackDown to try to get people to draw more people to watch SmackDown, which I think is a mistake because it's actually taking away the mystery of the entire feud. But they're gonna do it anyway, so whatever, blah. But let's move on to some of the confusing parts of the night. It seems like they don't really know what to do with Adam Rose, to where Adam Rose actually has his own segment. I can't remember the name of it at this point. But it's just the fact that it's kind of paying a mockery to every single love storyline that's going on in WWE right now. And I honestly, make a mockery of it because it's stupid. The fact is that I don't know whether or not that they're completely crapping on the engagement of Lana and Rusev by literally having the Rosebud segment with Adam Rose and also with the Miz segment. To me, it just seems like that's Vince McMahon literally just poking Rusev and Lana for being engaged outside kayfabe. It doesn't seem like it's anything to move the plot at all. It's just something to make a mockery of something that's supposed to be beautiful. Hence why they did it in the first place. People are like, oh no, they're trying to make something interesting. No, he is jabbing them. Literally, he is. This is a huge jab to their engagement. And the fact they had a storyline with her being with Dolph Ziggler and Rusev being with Summer Rae. It's a jab. It's a jab on both ends. That's just my opinion of it. It really is. Even though that the Rosebud segment was very funny, and as well as the Miz gets in where he fits in, unfortunately he just needs to wrestle more. But he did Miz TV. The fact that he did that was a little entertaining, but it was a jab nonetheless. But here's a moment of confusion that still makes me scratch my head a little bit. Why in the world did they have Alberto Del Rio come up with Zeb Coulter and have a match with Goldust? And then all of a sudden, after he beaten Goldust, here comes Jack Swagger with his All-American music, thinking that, okay, we're going to have a feud somewhere at TLC. Then later on in the night, we see him in a whole new faction. I'm like, okay, did you drop Zeb and Jack Swagger at the same time? Is this something at the last minute? But something tells me that this is something that was in the works, because it actually had a whole new graphic when the League of Legends came out, or the League of Nations, whatever they're called, the League of Nations came out. They had a whole new graphic back there. So I'm like, okay, you planned this? So why did you actually allow this to go on with no cut? Like, seriously, you absolutely had no closure with this. So it made absolutely no sense to me. And it seems to me that they actually did drop Zeb Coulter mid-feud. Same thing with Jack. And I'm like, dang, dude, you could have really made this good. You could have made Jack Swagger look really good. But I don't know what they're going to do. And it seems to me this is a last-minute thing. And they just, I don't know. This was probably something in the works that was going to happen maybe later on down the line, probably a few pay-per-views down, and they already had everything set. But it seemed like it was so rushed, so thrown in there, to where they were like, okay, let's just do this now. And it made no sense because you're already in mid-feud. It would make sense if you actually did allow the pay-per-view match to go through and then cap it off at the pay-per-view and then continue on with another feud. But I don't know. It was just flat out weird. And the whole Sheamus 515 thing, I'm not going to lie, it was funny. But Sheamus had the freaking shirt on when he came outside. So I'm like, okay, you really was planning this. This was something that you really wanted to push. If you have a t-shirt that's already made... This is something that was pre-planned. The whole Sheamus 515, I just kicked your butt, or I just whipped your ass, whatever you want to say. That honestly, yeah, that was already pre-planned, y'all. Seriously, that was already done, already pre-planned, and just ready to go. And when I saw that shirt, I'm like, could you be a little bit more original? I mean, seriously, why did it have to look like Steve's? I don't know. It was odd. The whole thing was odd. The League of Nations just came out of nowhere. It seems like it was something that was going to start maybe after TLC, but somebody had the itch and had to scratch it real quick. But I will say this. One interesting thing of the night, and this actually should have been the main event in my humble opinion. We honestly should have had Roman Reigns and his match with Sheamus as the main event, not the 8-man tag. And the 8-man tag was predictable as it was. Even though it was interesting having the odds stacked against them, that should not have been the main event. The main event should have been Sheamus versus Roman Reigns because they had so much on the line. And it actually seemed like it was going to go great. But then they dropped the ball again by allowing interference and then introducing themselves to the League of Nations. I'm like, you should have had this continue and then have the match end and then introduce yourselves. What's the rush? Why are they being so quick with this? How come they're just not taking their time and actually allowing the introductions to happen, as well as the match to continue? I'm all about having interruptions when interruptions need be. But this is a point where there was a lot at stake. It would have been great if it continued to whether, and actually it would show a lot of heart for Roman Reigns. It would have actually had the crowd maybe sympathize a little bit for him, or empathy, or have a little empathy, whatever, what have you. But it would have been better for Roman if the match continued and not been interrupted. But they interrupted anyway to introduce their stupid faction, and we'll just see where it goes from there. But honestly, guys, my overall thoughts is this. There were some decent points of Raw, I'm not going to lie. Even though I didn't really care about Tommy Dreamer coming back because of how predictable it's going to be with the Wyatts, that's how I feel about it. But I will say that some of the matches were really good. Even though we really didn't need to see Tyler Breeze versus Dolph Ziggler again for maybe the umpteenth time. But honestly, I liked the Charlotte versus Becky Lynch match. I liked the whole ending of it, even though it was kind of short. I like how it ended because she's like her dad. I mean, Randy Orton did the same thing with his dad, with Cowboy Orton when he was there. So she should do the same thing with the Nature Boy. And I enjoyed it. But I will say that there was a massive amount of confusion. So, I mean, and everything was kind of thrown together at the last minute instead of having it played out naturally, which is one thing that bothers me. But like I said, the matches were good in itself, even though some of them were unnecessary. And then you had a lot of things thrown in at the last minute, which made it even more confusing, which makes you really wonder what's going to happen with TLC. But honestly, guys, it was an okay Raw. I really wish it would have been better, but it was okay. But since TLC is coming up, they got to get on their A game. You can't really rely on the New Day to make everything better. And you can't rely on crazy storylines to make things better either. You got to be a little bit original. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts about this. Leave a comment in the comment section below or send a video response on your personal thoughts about Raw. Because honestly, guys, some of the things were stupid. Some of the things were ridiculous. But there were matches that weren't that bad. But I guess Paige is somewhat of a face now, and Charlotte is somewhat of a heel. I don't know. I really think they changed their definition of what a heel and a face should really be. But like I said, leave your comments in the comment section below. Give me your thoughts. I'm curious to hear what you guys got to say. Next Girl 30 signing off. Peace out, guys. Later.